guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another episode of Keeping Up with KP. It is check-in day for me. I'm about 4 weeks post-show, so this is 4 weeks into my reverse, into my rebound. I have really been prioritizing my mobility work this improvement season. I have 4 rest days a week, so this gives me some extra time to focus on what I used to kind of rush through. Last week I had a follow-up mobility appointment with Dr. Kyle Richmond at Rebuilt Strength and Performance. I've been working with him for about 6 months, kind of working through all of my limitations. Working with him has helped a tremendous amount with getting better glute connection, which is the focus of this improvement season, building my upper outer glutes. So at my follow-up, we reassessed how body is moving. I do have an updated training program for this improvement season. It's 3 lower body glute days. I have a lot of unilateral work and I was struggling to connect with many of these exercises. These are new exercises on my program, which I spent 2 weeks kind of getting in a good flow with my new training, and then I sent form to my coach. He critiqued me. Then I followed up with Dr. Kyle so that we can get my body moving better, so I can have better form, better execution, better glute growth this improvement season. So with updating my mobility program, we have some more glute activation mobility that I'll be doing prior to training. Today is a lower body training day, and I kind of went through that in my last episode. But in today's episode, I'm going to share with you the mobility work that I do in the morning prior to checking in. I've gotten a good amount of requests for an episode of me doing my mobility work that you can kind of follow along with. So that's what this is going to be. Again, I spent about 6 months on a mobility program. I was treating it like training. And now that I have 4 rest days a week, I'm kind of using those exercises that I trained with and being intuitive with it. This program and these exercises, I've really gotten to know like what feels good and in what amounts. And so my goal with continuing the mobility work on my rest days is to just keep my body moving good and feeling good in between my training. Because what I found so far is my lower body days are Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Having either 1 or 2 rest days in between each training session, I'm finding if I don't have that mobility work, if I don't have some activity other than my 30 minutes of cardio, even if I just do the mobility work prior to training, it's taking my body more time to warm up. So I just want to keep my body moving good, feeling good. So treating my rest days a little less like training and a little bit more like a flow. And so that's what I have created, and I'm going to share with you here. I have already done my check-in this morning. I just sent it over to coach, but I'm going to go back through my mobility program with you guys and kind of just chat it up. So if you want to follow along, it's funny because when I started doing this, we had just moved and I couldn't find a mat anywhere. The only thing I could find was this like fur shawl that I've worn once, and it became my mobility rug. It just stuck. What I always start with is my 90-90 stretch. So you're gonna get into your 90-90 stretch just by sitting on both glutes. You're gonna take both feet here flat on the ground and you're gonna go to one side. The goal with a 90-90 stretch, you guys, is ultimately to have both glutes on the ground sitting upright. I have made a ton of progress here, but I still have quite a ways to go. This was really hard for me to sit in when I first started it. So you're gonna get into that stretch. And the thing with mobility, because I used to do this, but I would sit in this for like 5 to 10 seconds and just kind of like windshield wiper. No. With a stretch, you need to sit in it for 2 minutes. So we're gonna sit in this for 2 minutes each side. Every single day I do this. If you have tight hips, it is not likely you're gonna be able to sit upright with both glutes on the ground. I've been doing this every single day for 6 months. I still cannot. So what I do is I lean on this back supporting arm and I just let this open up. If you feel pinching in your hip or like a strain in your knee, what you can do is you can move this front leg out of flexion a little bit. You can bend it in a little bit more. That typically helps that pinching go away for me. So we're gonna sit in this for 2 minutes on each side. My biggest ailment is tight hips. That was the whole reason I even started this, because my front pose was not good. I couldn't twist my body, I couldn't sit into my glute, I couldn't sit into my hips, and I wasn't connecting with my glutes in my training. My lower body trainings, I just dreaded. It was even difficult for me to get out of bed in the morning. Like, to this day, my hips still click and pop, but hip limitations 100% is something I always struggled with. I thought my bodybuilding journey was going to be very short-lived just because of the discomfort and essentially pain I had on a daily basis, just like in life in general, but certainly during my lower body training. And with lower body and glutes being like such an important thing for us bikini girls, I was like, this is just so much harder than it has to be. But once I got my body working better, it has changed the game. I have enjoyed my training so much more. My posing has improved. My glutes have grown. My lower body has grown. Let's move on. Same thing on the other side. You will find that one side may feel different than the other. The point being, if you spend more time on getting your body working better, it will work better and it will improve your life in every aspect. The key, just like everything, is consistency. Also how you approach mobility, because again, I was approaching mobility as something really kind of like nonchalant, similar to how I used to approach working out. To be honest with you, I would kind of treat mobility exercises as like a catalog. Oh, let me try this, let me try that. But when I used to do that with my workouts, my physique didn't change, because essentially what I was doing was I was exercising. I wasn't training. Training is intentional. Training is repetition and progression, and that is what reshapes your body. Adding weight, progressive overload. Mobility is no different. If you're treating mobility like a catalog and doing just random things this day, that day, whatever, you're not really gonna know what is what. You have no way to measure your progress other than how you feel in your body that day, which is fine if you do not have specific limitations that you're trying to work through. If you're just using mobility as maintenance, to move good, to feel good, then sure. Same with training and exercising. If you don't have specific physique goals, you're not trying to reshape your body, you're just trying to enjoy strength training, then sure, doing random exercises every time you lift for the sake of maintaining muscle and enjoying your time in the gym, that is what I would consider a maintenance program. You're maintaining that muscle. So I hope this is landing, I hope this makes sense. But for me specifically, I have tight hips. I want to connect with my glutes, so my program is intentional. I was so tired of guessing. I was so tired of being in pain and discomfort. So I went to somebody who assessed my body, removed the guesswork, gave me a plan. I treated it like training, and I started getting relief and results immediately. So after the 90-90 stretch, 2 minutes each side, I already feel like my hips have opened up. The next stretch that I move on to is the hip capsule stretch. This stretch is an alternative to pigeon pose. I cannot sit in pigeon pose. It pinches my hips so bad. So instead, you can go on all fours. You're gonna take one leg behind the other, and you're gonna sit into that hip. Same with any stretch, 15 seconds of this is not enough. I would say anywhere from a minute, 90 seconds, 2 minutes, however long feels good. So you can start with this, but because this is kind of like a flow that I move through, I'm first gonna do it without the band, and then I'm gonna show you with the band because that's how I prefer it and that's how I feel it the most. 2 minutes each side, I would sit into this hip capsule stretch. We're gonna run through this one quickly and we're gonna do it with the band too. So how I have built on this, if you've never done a hip airplane, I do those standing. I like to do those kneeling. So now we're gonna open up our hips this way, and you're gonna go out, and then you're gonna twist in. Hip airplanes are my favorite. I had a really big love-hate with them, but it is such a great mobility exercise for hips, you guys. You do want to keep your core tight here also. So I'm going to say let's do 5 each side. Same thing. We're going to do 5 here. So this flow, you could go through this as many times as you want. I would say maybe up to 3, where you do 90-90 stretch, hip capsule stretch, and 2 hip airplanes, 5 each side, and then we're going to go through a cat-cow. With these, I am not rounding through my upper back. This is all through my lower back. You want to connect with the breath. I encourage some like organic movement here too. Like just like really whatever feels good for your body. Typically, I don't really do this part without the band. I've always done this with the band. But I'm just showing you guys how you can progress. So now we're gonna do this again with the band. This just adds some resistance and it's much more effective. So this is a 40 to 80 pound band. You can use a lighter one. I progressed to this one. But what you're gonna do is you're gonna take the band, you're gonna put it around your low back here, and we are going to start with the hip capsule stretch. So left leg behind right, and you're gonna sit into it. This really just opens up your low back. Like I can really feel that stretch with the band specifically. Like it feels so good, and I can also feel in my hip just like opening. This helps me sit into my front pose so much better. You don't want to like round up your back, but you can feel the band pressing down, and so you kind of want to resist it a little bit as you pull belly button in, just to kind of like keep that core engaged and like get the right amount of stretch in that low back. So you can sit in this as long as you want. I would say 30 seconds because it's a little more intense with the band. 30 seconds, 45, a minute, 2 minutes, like literally whatever you want. And then I'm gonna move on to, since we're already on this side, we're gonna go ahead and go into these hip airplanes. I like to do these slow and controlled because I'm not doing 15 reps, I'm literally doing 5. And so with these, my hips really click and pop and open. And get a little bit of a shake going too. Really feel it with the band. Wow. And then I'm just gonna sit back into child's pose. This is a pretty heavy band, so I can't really like fully go into it. Whew. The thing is, you guys, mobility work is not strength training. You are strengthening those muscles so that you can strength train better, so that you can move better, connect better to your lifts. So with mobility work, you really need to leave the ego at the door, because on some mobility exercises you can use weight, but more weight is honestly not better with stuff like this. And that's what I'm finding with all the training that I'm doing, is that less is so much more. So now we're gonna move on to the other side. and do the same thing. So make sure to breathe. You can also do vacuums while you're sitting in all of these stretches, just to help with that core control. Get more out of your time, especially if you don't have a ton of time. And so again, 30 seconds, 45, a minute, whatever you have time for, whatever feels good for you and your body that day. And then we're gonna move on to these hip airplanes here. Again, this exercise for me started standing body weight. I still do standing body weight on my rest days. And then I progressed to standing with weight. And now I've incorporated kneeling with and without band. And you just feel it differently. I also really feel this in my upper body, which is nice because I don't get to train upper body. Okay, so I'm gonna take a little break and shake out my arms. And then the last one that I'm gonna do is banded cat-cow. I'm obsessed with banded cat-cow, you guys. That's what got me to even start using the band on these exercises, because originally this started with just 90-90 stretch and banded cat-cow. And then I've added in these other ones. So banded cat-cow, same thing, but we are just rounding through the low back. And we're gonna hold here for just like 5 to 10 seconds. And slowly release. I'm also holding a bit of a vacuum with these. That core control is so important, and it helps a ton with digestion in the morning too. So I'm just gonna do 5 of these and move on with it. I'm also not very good at counting and talking and thinking, so this might have been very off on the amount of reps or times that we did everything, but you get the idea, right? So that is all I do before my check-ins in the morning. I can run through this pretty quickly. The last thing that I will do, this is kind of like how I finish, is I just lay, kind of stretch my arms out, and then I like to do, I always get a good crack in the bottom. These side to side. And then just kind of like whatever intuitive stretches feel good for you. You could do like a happy baby, sit in that, curl up in a ball, supine. Like any of these are just kind of some things I added. At the end, I just don't really spend too much time on. If you want to warm up the upper body too, a good one is thread the needle. This is just nice to, like, with the twisting that we do in a front pose, sometimes I'll do a little bit of this if I have time for it. And you always want to make sure what you're doing on one side, you're doing on the other to even it out. But that is my quick mobility sequence I've been doing prior to checking in. I'm looking forward to getting some feedback from coach. Just a quick little check-in overview of where I am at 4 weeks out. I'm starting to feel like I'm getting my menstrual cycle back 4 weeks post show. I did lose it during season. I typically always do, but I'm also very high stress. So I think a lot of it is due to stress just in my daily life, which I really try to manage and do better at. But as female athletes, this is just something that happens. Some people lose it, some people don't. Unfortunately, I typically always do. Last year, coming out of show, I got my cycle back about 4 weeks post-show. I am currently 4 weeks post-show. If you've been following along with the journey, I've also been introducing my probiotics post-show. So I was having a lot of digestive bloating, gas, all the things the last couple of weeks. But this week I started noticing some different kind of inflammation, bloating in my lower abdomen, which I have not felt for quite a while. And then yesterday I got smacked with the cramps. And I was like, oh, I remember this feeling. The joys of being a woman, but the joys of being a female athlete, it's kind of catch-22, you know? It's nice not having to deal with all the negative symptoms on a monthly basis. However, it is a sign of health. It is a positive that I am getting my menstrual cycle back. So I'm kind of going through that right now with today's check-in. I feel like I'm retaining a little bit of water. I feel like digestion's been a little bit slower. I've definitely been a little bit more moody, emotional this week. But sometimes it's hard to tell what's what when you're going through so much change. The other thing I've really been navigating is more rest days, which sounds kind of crazy, but I'm somebody that has always done some form of exercise at least 6 days a week for the last 15 years. So me going from training 5 days a week, and with the intensity and the intention that I had towards my training, all of that is completely different right now. Because what is required for me to better fit the bikini criteria and for me to really improve this improvement season is just doing less. And that sounds like it should be easy, it should be simple, but it's actually really not, because the same level of discipline is required, if not more. And so with going from training 5 days a week to only 3 days a week and having all this extra rest, it really has affected my mental and emotional state, like more than I can even explain. This has been a huge adjustment for me, and I just really haven't been feeling like myself. And so I've been finding other ways to move my body without doing the most, if that makes sense. Because I don't need to add in more workouts, I don't need to burn more calories, which historically for me has always been my intention with any form of exercise. Until about the last year, because I really started to change my relationship with rest. We really started incorporating more rest, and that's really when I started getting more results. My physique started changing, and ultimately I was able to build all of this muscle where when I went to nationals, I was told I had too much muscularity. And the biggest piece of that was the rest and recovery that we implemented, you guys. So don't sleep on rest, don't sleep on recovery, but also staying active for your mental state is so important. So I have just been trying to learn how to stay active, to keep my body moving, to keep my mind happy in ways that complement my training. So that's why I'm really focused on mobility and keeping my body warm, almost priming it for my training days is the intention behind it. So instead of doing more, instead of doing the most, I'm doing what I was already doing, but I'm doing it better. And again, I'm only 4 weeks post-show, so I'm just kind of like getting into this new rhythm and these new routines. But I intend to use these extra rest days for mobility, for posing. You know, my cardio was something that was always just like checking a box, but I have been doing the same cardio in my home, 30 minutes, fasted, and it's become redundant. And honestly, I was struggling to get my target heart rate to the point it needed to be because it was so redundant. So what I've started doing is going to the gym, changing my environment. Instead of doing treadmill, I'll do the stairs, I'll do the elliptical, I'll switch up the cardio equipment, still keeping it in the same duration, still keeping it in my target heart rate zone, which is how I do my fasted cardio. Some coaches have you do it differently, but I have a range that I stay within. So essentially, nothing on my plan has changed, just how I am approaching that cardio session has changed. The environment that I'm in has changed, which makes it feel new, makes it feel different, makes it feel more intentional. I've also added in some Pilates classes. My husband and I, we own a Pilates studio. This is something that I haven't really gotten into. We have owned this studio for 2 years. If you've been following along with the journey, you already know, but if you don't, we own a wellness and aesthetic center and a Pilates studio. Our dream was always to have a wellness center to offer hormone optimizing services, peptides, IV therapy, just really things that complement this lifestyle, as well as a gym. But when we found the space for our wellness center, there was a pre-existing yoga and Pilates studio, and so we just took over the entire space. It wasn't large enough for the gym, so we just kind of kept it the same concept and made it better. So it's really given me an opportunity to dabble in the whole Pilates, yoga, gentle movement, which is what I always used to do before bodybuilding. So now that I have some extra time, I am revisiting that kind of exercise, that kind of movement, and I'm finding more joy in it because my body is different. So this kind of exercising, I'm using it now like more intentionally, which is a different experience for me too. So that's kind of cool. So these are just kind of ways that I am learning to incorporate movement, to keep my body moving good, keep my mind feeling good with the added rest this improvement season. So with this week's check-in, that's kind of what I'm going through physically with the hormones, with the mobility, with the less training, with the cardio, with all of the things. On the nutrition side, we are really focused on getting my gut in a better place so that I can tolerate more food. It has been a journey. Navigating all of my gut stuff has been difficult at times mentally. But every season has a purpose, and right now we are really focused on getting my gut to a better place, which means we really need to control all of the variables. We're also in my reverse, which means we need to control all of the variables. I haven't gotten to have a ton of food fun. I did have a little bit of a plan deviation last week. My hunger was really high. I was having cravings, which now makes sense because of the hormones, and if you watched that episode and you saw how I deviated from the plan, most people who follow macros would be like, this is not a planned deviation. But for me, I follow a very strict and structured meal plan. I deviated from it. So that's something that I talked about with my coach. We navigated together. He just holds me to a very high standard, which I am appreciative of. I need to be held to that standard, and it's just taught me to be honest with myself, but I am human. I haven't had a meal off plan essentially since Christmas, but we are completely back on plan. I am visiting my family over this next upcoming weekend for my niece's birthday. So I'm super excited for that. You will see what Coach has to say, and I will end this episode with Coach's feedback. So stand by. All right, you guys. Day after check-in, I am on my way currently to the gym. It is a rest day, but I'm getting in a new routine that I am establishing to physically go to the gym, do my mobility, do my cardio, and that is what I'm on my way to do right now. But I want to round out this episode with some final thoughts, some coach's feedback, because yesterday my coach sent me side-by-sides of my check-in 4 weeks post-universe 2025 and this check-in 4 weeks post-universe 2026. And so just some perspective, because I have been in the trenches a little bit mentally, just like with all of this change, right? What's required from me this improvement season is different than what was required from me last improvement season based on feedback. What was required to achieve my current physique to get me from there to here is much different than what is required to get my current physique to where it needs to be to better fit the bikini criteria, right? And so that has been my biggest mental hurdle coming out of show. So not a lot of feedback from this check-in, but a whole lot of perspective. Really right now, we are focused on getting my body to normalize post-show. My mind, my body, and my gut, to be honest. So we are really not changing too many variables. I'm already navigating a whole lot of change, getting adjusted to my new training split, my new training program, my mobility, just doing all of the doing and just coming into myself in this season mentally. We're also navigating my digestion, so we're not trying to push food. We don't really need to push food, and as my hormones normalize right now, that's another added variable because I feel like I'm retaining water. I feel like my digestion, that's another variable on top of my gut situation, is when I get my cycle, my digestion's always a little off. So for this week on the nutrition front, we are not changing anything, and we probably won't for a couple weeks as we get my body just like into a good rhythm, into a good place. My food is not super low, but typically when you go into a growth phase, you do work food up incrementally, and you do get those cheat meals and meals off plan and like all the fun stuff of improvement season, and that is not something I get to partake in at this time. So I do want to touch on that quickly because it is part of this check-in. It is a part of this process, especially if you're a female athlete and you have been through this. Like the hormonal landscape post-show coming out of, you guys, I did not have one craving during prep. Part of that's just being like completely locked in, right? And prep, it's easier to lock in because week over week you're seeing the physique change, you're getting lean, there's like that fire under you. Improvement season's different, and I am being reminded that I have to stay in my own lane and in my own experience and in my own timeline, because what is required for me this improvement season is different than any other season, but it's also different than most competitors for two reasons. We aren't rushing into a growth phase, specifically with my training, just 3 lower body training sessions a week that are super intentional. Those are the only days my food is higher, and so it doesn't need to be super high right now, especially because we want to keep my body composition in a good place, reversing out of show, and it's only been 4 weeks. We also don't need to add a ton of food or volume while I'm doing this work on my gut, which also means we have to keep my inputs controlled so that we can get on the other side of this quicker. And so at times that has felt like a little bit of a challenge because I get to see everybody else's post-show experience, especially like with the professional shows going on right now too. It's a constant reminder to me how my experience is so different, and I have certainly been feeling the FOMO, which has made me like resent my body and this process a little bit. So I opened up to my coach about that with like kind of how I'm struggling, and it's not ever just about the food. I think it's more so like connecting over that food. Like I see everybody post show like getting that time with their significant other to enjoy a meal, even if it's just for a moment, and I haven't had that in so long. I haven't genuinely enjoyed a meal or enjoyed that kind of experience with my husband, with my mom, with my family. I haven't had that for a holiday, for a birthday, for a celebration, for post-show. I think I'm more so just like trying to understand like the weight of this whole experience, and I'm trying to reframe in my mind that like, yes, prep always seems like the most important, right? It's the hardest, you're the most locked in, but I don't think that's true. I think improvement season needs to be just as, if not more, intentional than prep, because that's where the true progress and growth happens, and I have evidence of that. My last improvement season I took so seriously, and look at the growth that I was able to achieve. I didn't really feel like I was missing out on anything then because my life was so busy and was so full, and I was just so consumed by the work. Coming out of show this time, getting feedback I never imagined I would have, my expectations were that the work was going to remain the same, and that's not the case. What has required has changed, the work has changed, and truthfully, my life circumstances have changed. And so everything just feels really unfamiliar and kind of scary right now. Just learning to navigate this and like lock in on this season so that I can have better ones moving forward. So I'm just constantly having to remind myself of that and to stay in my own lane, to stay in my own experience, and to do what is required. And I honestly feel like I'm rebuilding that trust with myself a little bit, because again, my body trying to get its cycle back and my hormones regulating, like I am having hunger. I am having cravings. Like I had to do the thing last night where I knew there was granola in my cupboard, and I said to my husband, like, I have to make a choice right now. And so I did. I took any trigger food out of my house and I dumped it in the garbage, and I sprayed it with Lysol. Because that little gremlin that's like just driving you to lean into all of your cravings, your emotional cravings. That's what I'm feeling. I forgot what this felt like. Like as a woman, I'm sure you know that drive for like hunger before your period, for those cravings, for that comfort, and like not even bad ones. It is wild, and that is what I've been going through. And so I'm just very hyper aware of all of these things right now that I'm navigating. Some of it for me is emotional. Some of it for me is FOMO. Some of it for me is hormonal. And some of it for me is actual hunger, because my body is regulating post-show and our appetite does increase because of all of these variables. But as an athlete, you all know we have to lock in to that discipline and be who we say we're gonna be and build that trust with yourself. And because I broke that, I feel like every choice I make, I'm like rebuilding it. And you might be sitting there thinking, oh, it's not that deep, but like actually it is. I saw a quote this morning, a Marcus Aurelius quote. Discipline is the art of not betraying yourself. And so the Stoics know what's up. This is actually a really great carousel if you like read through it. And it's so true. Our choices, our decisions, they make up our identity. And the people that don't have discipline, you'll also notice, don't have a lot of self-confidence or self-respect, because they're constantly, continuously betraying themselves. And that has been me most of my life. And so our old habits, our old belief systems, they resurface during times of transition. It's the universe testing us. Like, are you actually committed to being the person that you say you want to be? And so it is a constant choice. Every choice is a choice, and no choice is the wrong one, because either way, you're going to learn. But when you backslide into those old habits, those old beliefs, those old identities that you carry within you, it's not a good feeling. And that's really what I've been feeling this last week. Nobody is harder on me than me. And that is one of my faults. But I also believe that you have to be hard on yourself to make the kind of progress that I was able to make. Like, you have to have that internal drive, but you also have to learn how to channel it. And I'm learning that in real time. I'm learning what inner dialogue is going to be appropriate for this season, because my inner dialogue has always been, nobody cares, work harder, right? And so with it being required for me to do less, I'm just making damn sure that what I am doing, I'm doing better. So maybe the inner dialogue is, nobody cares, do better. So we're gonna go with that. That's what we're doing today. We're getting better. We're sharing the journey, you guys. And I'm wearing this hat because my roots are screaming. I need my hair done so bad, so don't judge me. But by doing better, we are more intentional with our mobility work. So I hope you guys enjoyed the mobility work that I shared with you guys, my mobility flow that I do before my check-ins. I want you to try it, and I want you to let me know how it goes for you. I also want to hear if anything in this episode resonated with you. Are you going through reverse? Have you been here? What are some mindsets that have helped you? Is my journey resonating with you? Is it helping you? Like, I want to hear it all. Slide in my DMs. So many of you do, and I love it, because this journey, specifically this part of the journey, it can be really lonely, you know? And so that's why I'm here to share the journey, because I've been there, I'm here, I'm in it, and the only way out is through. And so I just want to remind you that these experiences shape us into the athlete that we're meant to become, the person that we're meant to become, the best version of ourselves. So all that to say, don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next one.